Hey guys, Slater Magic here, and we've got more spoilers from Wilds of Eldraine. I don't think we've quite seen all the cards yet, but we're getting close. Of course, I'm only covering the noteworthy uncommons and the rares and mythics. And there are some very interesting cards in the group today. So first up, we got a Tale for the Ages. So it's a 2-cost white enchantment, and enchanted creatures you control get +2/+2. So it's a story spotlight card, and I think it's at the very end of the story because, if you think about it, the flavor text is, with every retelling of Agatha's demise, Kellen got taller and Ruby got stronger, but the core story stayed the same, and the people remembered what happens to those who prey on the weak. They run on the Democrat ticket. Oh no, bad villain person dies. In a fairy tale set, who would have thought? I'm actually surprised WOTC did follow that now that I think about it, but next up we got Discerning Financier. He do be looking discerning. So it's a 3-cost white 2/3 creature human noble uncommon, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure token. Then if you pay 3, and this is a recurring ability with no tap, choose another player. That player gains control of target treasure you control. You draw a card. That is a trap and a terrible idea. Generally, and there's a lot of factors here, but generally, giving your opponent access to a spell that's like 3 turns in the future, because 1/3 of your deck is land and you draw 1 card at a time, generally. Depending upon the CMCs of their deck, depending upon how it works, depending upon what turn it is, depending on how much land they have, and depending upon how many cards they have in hand. But generally, trading a card for that because you've got access to a ton of mana but nothing to spend it on when you're drawing 1 card per turn, while giving your opponent access to a much higher level spell, not a good idea. It depends, but be careful with that. That is an extremely dangerous idea. Next up, we've got whatever that says in French, but it's Eerie Interference. So it's a 3-cost white instant, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and creatures you control by creatures until end of turn. Instant speed, by the way, of course. Yep, Fog is back. I guess they thought, well, we've got Hyper Control Mono Blue Haughty Djinn, which is basically Drago. We've also got Glorified Infect, and then we've got Hyper Blitz Red. So to balance things out, we need a 4th deck that nobody wants to play against, historically, Turbo Fog. Now we're going to need more than this, but may I remind you, 3 years are now in the standard rotation instead of 2. Now I think that translates to Story Spotlight on the bottom there, so let's read the flavor text. It says, Les Rangs des Chevaliers d'Ardenval endormis implicient la salle du trône d'Ereti, whoever that is, Pretz, I assume short for pretzel, defendre, the acento, defendre, leur reine sorcière avec une dévotion, call it what it is, aveugle. Wow, can you believe that happened in the story? That is shocking. I don't even know what to say about that. Really, I don't. Next up, Leyline of, I don't remember. I guess I closed the tab. This isn't even in the set. It's in the, masterpieces. The Enchanted Enchantments, or whatever the hell they call it. Enchanted Tales. Over half of these are in a foreign language, and it's getting kind of annoying. How am I supposed to care if I can't read the damn card? So anyway, $9 card, formerly more expensive, but, it's been reprinted. Next up, Extraordinary Journey, which, yes, wait until you read this one. Another Story Spotlight card, by the way. It's double blue plus double X, so the value of X you have to pay 2 per. So if you want X to be 3, it is 6 additional mana in addition to the 2 blue. So it's an enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to X target creatures. For each of those cards, its owner may play it for as long as it remains exiled, but then whenever 1 or more non-token creatures enter the battlefield, if 1 or more of them entered from exile, or was cast from exile, you may draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Is it defensive? Is it offensive? Is it both? Is it just a terrible card? The answer is none of the above. It's just more fuel for jerks playing Haughty Djinn. Also, we've all seen the series Sliders. Don't jump into that wormhole, my dude. Next up, Forced Fruition. I hate this card. This is another one that's in the masterpieces, so it's not really in the set. I believe it's not standard legal. So it's a 6-cost blue enchantment. Wait till you hear this one. This one's a trip. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player draws 7 cards. Next up, we've got Godric Cloaked Reveler. First of all, I didn't know this was Innistrad. Secondly, isn't he dead? Wait, was that Odric? Why does he look exactly like him? Anyway, whoever this is, 3-cost double red 3/3 legendary creature, human noble with haste and celebration. As long as 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, Godric Cloaked Reveler is a dragon. Ooh. With base power and toughness 4/4 flying, and pay 1 red, add 1 attack, also known as fire breathing. But only until end of turn. And then the reminder text, and this is interesting, it loses all other creature types. That is how the rule works. It's just people are used to them putting on the card, it's still a whatever. That's so much more common recently that I guess they wanted to specify it, so it's actually kind of nice. This is like kind of nutty, except that it's a 3/3 for 3. So it becomes a 4, but you spent all your mana in a blitz deck, because he has haste, on double dropping something, and then you obviously don't have anything more for fire breathing. So unless it's just like a finish him off card, but this is just a bad card. I'm fine with that because I hate Red Rush. So do you. Now, a late game absolute murder card in the air in draft. Oh, hell yeah. But it's a rare, which means it's not meant for limited at all. Next up, we've got another one of the masterpieces. It's Impact Tremors. I may have covered this one already. I don't remember. But whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Just a good solid card. Next up, Redcap Gutter Dweller, also known as Potential Hiree at Wizards of the Coast, also known as Reddit Moderator. Anyway, 4-cost, double red, creature Goblin Warrior, 3/3 menace, and when it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Redcap Gutter Dweller, and exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. This is such an amazingly well-designed card. It's a little bit underpowered for the cost, but it makes it up with Menace, so he's probably not getting blocked. Then he builds up over time, but gives your opponent time to react. And then you have the optionality of going past the rats, or using the rats in a different way. And then you get bonus cards out of it too, if you risk losing the rat. The problem is the rats can't block, so you're not really risking anything. So it's kind of a guarantee, but it's a build-up card that can build up past the rats, I guess. It's just, this is how you design a fair but interesting, powerful but not overpowered card. They really should do this more often. Next up, Royal Treatment. This card pisses me off. So it's a 1-cost green instant. Target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. Create a Royal Roll, which is of course a token, and then attach to that creature. If you control another roll that's on the same creature, you basically put it in your graveyard and then cause a bunch of triggers to happen that they didn't think would happen. And that enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has ward 1 and is now wearing this roll. And yes, the token is a permanent, obviously. And then they've got a quote on the bottom from every Hottie Djinn player ever. Stay your blades, peasants. So a 1-cost green counter spell, which, okay, green does do hexproof, but then it gives it permanent ward 1 and this only costs 1. It's just like how, okay, green's weakness, the whole thing in the color pie that keeps every color from being the do-it-all color, is like it can't directly remove creatures. So you need a creature that's bigger, and then you need to fight it and survive it. That's how they remove creatures, and usually it's a little bit more expensive than a straight-up removal card. That's how things started. Now it's like, oh, force fight, except not really. It just deals damage equal to its power to a creature, and there's 0 chance of it lashing back and killing you. And you don't need a creature that's big at all. In fact, you just could have a 1/1 Death Toucher. In fact, if it's not big enough, here, have +2 on the thing too, and then for 2 mana, woo! Now we've got a 1-cost counterspell. There are cards that aren't this good in blue. Then you get a roll on top of it, +1/+1, and ward 1. This is absurd. This is a 2-mana spell, if not a 3. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. And next up, we've got, I wish I was kidding, Storm Elk. That's right, Storm Elk. Storm, as in the storm scale, and elk, as in everybody hates WOTC. Storm Elk. 4-cost green creature adventure hybrid, whatever, who cares. Elemental Elk, because of course it is. Trample, 3/4. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on Storm Elk. Peer Through the Clouds. That's the blue ability there. It is instant speed, adventure, 2 cost, draw 2 cards, and then discard 2 cards. So this doesn't have anything to do with Storm. They just named it that because, F you, Storm Scale. Woo, we go shopping on the Storm Scale, 7 and up for our new mechanics. Haha, screw you, Mark Rosewater hates you. To, hey, remember Elks and how they completely destroyed the game and how Oko had to be just about the most banned card in the entire history of the game? In fact, well, debatably it is. I mean, you could say Shahrazad, but that's I wouldn't really count that. So they decided, let's reference that disaster, let's dig that back up, because they have this, let's provoke the customers, because it's funny obsession, because, they're all mentally ill, obviously. They got their mental illnesses in their bios, because they're lefty idiots who are all victims. I mean, at this point, I consider living in Seattle to be a mental illness, but they decided, let's provoke everybody and remind them of the last time we went to Eldraine, because nobody wants to go back there because it was an unbalanced Elkathon that lost them upwards of 500,000 active users, depending upon how you want to measure it. It's the numbers I'm hearing. And then throw Storm on top of it, and then have it have nothing to do with storms and nothing to do with turning stuff into Elks. This is just a big middle finger to you, the community, right here. Just like this next card, which is in Chinese. And the princess appears to be black, and Chinese people absolutely adore black people, as we all know. Oh no, the other thing, they put up signs that say no blacks allowed. It was one of those. I'm sorry, I was deeply confused. So yeah, the princess flies on horseback. It's a 3-cost white saga enchantment, and if you pay 1. Chapter 1, Des didn't get any sleep. Chapter 1b, exile up to 1 target creature. Chapter 2, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. Now if you're about to think, holy crap, that's a banishing with a plus. Chapter 3, return the exile card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Okay, that's not a horse. I guess they meant flying literally, and that's also not a Pegasus, and that's also not a unicorn. It's a Horsa Unipegacorn. All right. So moving on to something we could actually read, we got 3 bowls of porridge. So it's a 2-cost artifact food. If you pay 2 and tap it, choose one that hasn't been chosen. 3 bowls of porridge deals 2 damage to target creature. Tap target creature and sacrifice 3 bowls of porridge. You gain 3 life. So obviously they mean chosen ever, because the third option, although you can do it first, is sack it and gain 3 life. So it's like a normal food, also it counts as food. So if you remember the Lembas bread from Lord of the Rings, the card from the set, not the real one from the real one, that was like utility food. It counted as a food. You could use it as a food. You could use it in food payments, food triggers, everything. Food ownership counts, but then it had a special ability on top of it, and it was actually kind of neat. So this is kind of cool too. Next up, we got another one of these. This is Utopia Sprawl. So this wasn't a secret lair, and that version is $13. Otherwise, this is still fairly expensive at about $7. It's Enchant Forest. As Utopia Sprawl enters the battlefield, choose a color, probably green, and whenever it is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana to the of the chosen color. So your standard old school land multiplier. Not bad for 1, that's why it's so expensive. It's kind of the best of its class, but there are other cards that do something similar for a little bit more. Next up, we've got another mythic, and this one's an adventure, and it's single color, and it costs a lot. It's probably going to be absolutely nuts. So, Virtue of Persistence, 7-cost enchantment, and at the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Permanently, don't exile it. Free trigger. Yeah, just in case Black Attrition wasn't annoying enough, we've got this. But wait, there's more. Don't want to get to 7? Have this in your opening hand? I've got a solution for you. Locked Wainscorn. It's a 2-cost black sorcery adventure. Target creature gets -3/-3 till end of turn. You gain 2 life. That's right, it's also a kill spell. I mean, I'd say at least it costs 7, but we all know with treasures and ramp and 3 years worth of cards instead of 2 and just all this stuff, it might as well not cost 7. This is basically just overpowered. Next up, we've got a Werefox Bodyguard. Werefox, there fox. Why do werewolves when you can have a Werefox? So it's a 3-cost double white creature Fox Knight with Flash and 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield, you may exile up to 1 target non-Fox creature until Werefox Bodyguard leaves the battlefield. They said non-Fox because you could target itself or not. Well, actually, wait a minute, let me read that. Yep. And yeah, it's until it itself leaves the battlefield. But then if you pay 1 plus a white, sack it and gain 2 life. And then another copy of itself could re-enter the battlefield. And wait, no, then it would be in the graveyard. I don't know what kind of infinite loop they're trying to prevent, but it just seems like they are. I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want him targeting himself. If you did, it would make absolutely no sense. You know what? Maybe the translation's wrong. This whole way they do spoilers is a freaking train wreck anyway. Trying to figure out what any of this stuff does, or if any of it's important, or what's good for draft, or what's a constructed card, and nobody even plays constructed standard, and so then it's just like, well, they basically went 1/4 of the set is just Commander Masters, and... Oh, I mean Legends. New cards do inject into Commander, that's all standard is. And that is actually it for today. So it looks like we've only seen just short of like 200 cards from the set, so might just have some more to look at, and I'm pretty sure a little short on Mythics right now. So stay tuned for some more epic spoilers later this week, I assume, and I'll see you guys next time.